Dr. Burke Harris, welcome to becoming a changemaker. Dr. Burke Harris, meet our changemakers, meet Dr. Burke Harris. We are so delighted to have you here. Just to embarrass you for a second, every semester when I start this class, I give some examples of changemakers who inspire me. And for the last 2 years, you've been the changemaker that I've led with. And so when I announced to the class that you'd be coming to join us, there was a round of applause, which I've never received before. They're pretty excited to meet you. And so I'm absolutely delighted to have you here. We're going to do this almost entirely student-led question and answer. But I thought to get us started, I would love to ask you a question, which is kind of a high-level question, which is, you've made all kinds of impressive change across your career. When did you first realize that you could be a change maker, that you could catalyze positive change from where you are?
What a great question. And first of all, it's such a pleasure to be with you guys this morning. It's really great to see all the faces out there. And wow, when did I realize that I could be a change maker? It's kind of a funny question because I think it's something that doesn't, it kind of sneaks up on you a little bit, right? Like, I think most of us see other people as really being the ones to make change in the world. But I think probably the biggest lesson that hit home for me was something that I talked about in my book, which was that there was, when I first learned about ACEs and read the research and was addressing it in my clinical practice, there was a moment when I went to go to the hospital council, because I'm like, these are the people who have the power, right? These are all of the CEOs of all the hospitals in San Francisco, and I'm going to tell them about the problem and they're going to solve it. And I, got my presentation ready and did my PowerPoint and everything. And when I did my presentation, I showed them everything, and I asked them, okay, so here's the issue: adverse childhood experiences. They're so common. They have such a profound health effect. And I was waiting for them to tell me what to do. And at the end of my presentation, they looked at me and said, okay, we get it. We believe you that this is a problem. And then they said, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, what? I thought you guys were the ones who are supposed to fix this stuff. And it was, I was totally deflated. Like, I was just completely, I was just like, oh my gosh, I just felt so down. And what was amazing about it was, as I was getting ready to leave that presentation, that conversation, the woman who had been pouring the coffee for the CEOs, she like ran out of the room and caught me at the elevator. And she said, hey, I just want to let you know, that's me. That's like, I have got 10 out of 10 ACEs, and just keep doing what you're doing because it's so important. And that for me was really a changing point for me in realizing that we got to be the change that we're looking to see, that we can't, that, it's relying on other people isn't necessarily going to get us there. And if it's something that we think is really important, we got to keep pushing.
What a terrific start. All right, let's open up to student questions. Lykia, we start with you.
I wanted to ask about your role as the first California Surgeon General. Usually being a change maker means giving yourself permission to take on new roles and opportunities. So I wanted to understand how you gave permission, how you gave yourself permission for this role, and also how the pandemic affected this decision.
That's a great question. So sorry, tell me your name again. It was hard for me to hear.
It's Lykia.
Lykia? All right, thanks for the question, Lykia. So when the so this is like a kind of a crazy story too, because when the governor's office first reached out to me and said, we want you to be the first Surgeon General of the state of California. No, they said, we want you to be California Surgeon General. I said, there's no such thing as California Surgeon General. And they were like, yeah, you would be the first one. And it was a real, I have to say, it was a real, it gave me a moment of pause, because I loved my job. I loved what I was doing with clinical care and research and advocacy. And I was having a ton of, fun at the Center for Youth Wellness. And as I, had further conversations, so I wasn't in a hurry to leave, but as I was having further conversations with the governor's office, what really became clear to me was that this was really my opportunity to make change at a much larger scale. And when you think about that, that can be a little scary. And so in terms of giving myself permission, it was really about just deeply believing in the work and recognizing that this opportunity for me wasn't even necessarily about me. It was about what the work that I and so many other people have been trying to accomplish for such a long time, and recognizing that this was a window of opportunity. It was an opportunity to move our work on ACEs and toxic stress forward significantly. And I recognize that if I didn't step into that moment and take that opportunity, like, I'm sure there's somebody else who would be happy to be the first Surgeon General of California. So that was really a big piece for me. It was really about the opportunity to put the work forward. I think the question of how the pandemic changed my work in so many different ways, obviously, being California Surgeon General at a time of a global public health emergency has been quite an education. It's been a crazy amount of work, but it's also been a huge opportunity, because I think that one of the things that we're recognizing now is that the pandemic is both an infectious disease emergency, right? And an emergency. I mean, the American Academy of Pediatrics just announced a national emergency of children and youth mental health, right? Like, we recognize that it's also like this massive, massive, massive stressor. And there's never been a more important time for us to implement trauma-informed systems and trauma-informed care at scale. So it's really been a lot of my focus, in addition to, helping with vaccines and our thinking about our rollout and our equitable, our strategy for equity, which is another huge thing, right? Because when you have a public health emergency, it doesn't affect everyone equally. We see that vulnerable communities are disproportionately impacted by the infectious, by morbidity, mortality, but also the economic hardship created by the pandemic. So there's a lot of work for us to be doing around equity, having an equitable response, and then also having a trauma-informed response. So I'm busy.
Thank you for the answer.
Brian. Hi, Dr. Burke Harris. Thank you for spending time to talk with us today. I wanted to ask, you talked about having a bigger opportunity to create positive change with ACEs and toxic stress, which is one of your specialties. Can you first explain what ACEs are and like how they impact your long-term health? And then a follow-up question to that is like, how did you decide that that'll be your major theme you would kind of work towards as a changemaker?
Yeah. What's your name? Can you tell me your name?
Sorry, Brian.
Brian, thanks for the question, Brian. So, okay, so to start off, what are ACEs? So the term ACEs stands for adverse childhood experiences. And the term actually comes from a landmark research study that was conducted by the CDC and Kaiser Permanente that was published in 1998. And they looked at 10 categories of adverse childhood experiences. And those include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, physical or emotional neglect, or growing up in a household where a parent was mentally ill, substance dependent, incarcerated, where there was parental separation or divorce, or intimate partner violence. So those are the 10 ACEs. And what the CDC and Kaiser found was when they did their landmark study were two things. One is that ACEs are incredibly common. So roughly 2/3 of Americans, when we look at national data, have experienced at least one ACE. And about somewhere between 13 to 17% of the population have experienced 4 or more ACEs. So number one, they're common. And number two, what they found was that there was a dose-response relationship between adverse childhood experiences and not just a lot of the stuff that we think about all the time, like that's intuitive, like depression or anxiety or substance dependence. And there is a very strong and clear dose-response relationship between ACEs and mental and behavioral health conditions, but also a lot of stuff that people didn't think about before. So things like heart disease, stroke, cancer, autoimmune disease, chronic lung disease, Alzheimer's disease, right? And so seeing that dose response relationship between ACEs and some of the leading causes of death, I mean, literally 9 out of 10 of the leading causes of death in the US is really makes it clear that we need to do a much better job at early detection and early intervention, because that's the research shows that when we do early detection and early intervention, we can actually prevent some of the harms. So in terms of, you know, why did I decide to make this a priority? It's so when I finished my pediatrics residency and I started my clinical practice and I was working in Bayview Hunters Point over in San Francisco, I was seeing all of these kids and the health out, I was just seeing so many kids who were having major health risks. And I think that, you know, I did my master's in public health, you know, public health 101 is when we look at, when I went to public health school, a slightly inferior public health school in the East, but when I went to public health school, you know, what they tell you is if you're low income, if you're a person of color, if you're a recent immigrant, if you're non-English speaker, right, you have worse health outcomes, right? And it's almost like it's a given. And we look at all of the ways to be able to address that. But when I was working in Hunters Point, what I found was that my kids who had the worst outcomes are the ones who had experienced the most adversity, right? So if they had a parent who was had chronic mental illness or who were substance dependent, or if they were experiencing abuse or neglect, like I was just seeing sky high rates of asthma and autoimmune disease and learning disorders and all of this stuff. And to recognize, to read the research and understand, oh my God, this is treatable. Like this is treatable. And for most of us, we're not doing very much to treat it. That for me was something that I wasn't okay with. And that is a big part of the reason why it was so important for me to make it a priority, because when we look at the proportion of morbidity and mortality that's associated with ACEs, it's just really high. And it's, you know, it's what they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if we are able to do that early identification and early intervention, we can reduce cardiovascular risk, cancer risk. We can reduce risk for autoimmune disease. We can reduce risk for depression, anxiety, suicide, like all of these things just by preventing ACEs.
Thank you for your question. I mean, and your answer.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Bruce Harris. One of the questions I have for you kind of reflects what we've been learning in class, and we've learned that change making is very difficult and it requires a lot of hard work, and it requires us to be strong for the long haul. What are some of the practices that you found most helpful for your own resilience throughout this very challenging and important job?
That is a fantastic question. Thank you so much. Oh, tell me your name again.
My name is Cassie.
Cassie, thanks for the question, Cassie. That's so I think if there's anything that I can say for literally for a change makers class, this is probably the most important thing. Because I think that a lot of us have this idea or this perception that in order to be a change maker, the thing that we have to do is work really hard and, kick butt and do, just be really intense and nose to the grindstone. And it's something that I really deeply disagree with. I mean, I work hard, that's no joke, but it's really that ability to replenish ourselves, that ability to nourish ourselves and take breaks and be joyful and really integrate the work that we do and our purpose also with our lives, I think is what allows us to sustain the work that we're doing. And it also cultivates creativity and innovation and all of the things that actually help us be more successful in change making. So the couple of things that have really been helpful for me have been number one. So I follow all the science that I talk about all the time. So, a lot of the stress busters, I practice regularly, things like, I have a regular meditation practice and I work out just about every day. And I really am thoughtful about how I nourish my body and try to have a mostly anti-inflammatory diet and things like that. But the biggest thing, and I think probably anyone who you've probably heard this answer before, it's all about our relationships. And so for me, my choice of partner is one of the most important life decisions that you will ever make. My husband lifts me up. He supports me in achieving my goals. We make sure that the other one does their self-care and was like, hey, okay, you need me to cover the kids. You go for your bike ride. I'll go, whatever. So we definitely do that. And just taking time off to replenish. It's so important. But I have an amazing family, amazing friends. I have a great partner, and I have my squad, which is my girlfriends. And we do a regular, we get together regularly. We do girls' night, we do whatever, and just let it out, having people that you really love and trust who know you so well, and you can just tell them anything. That for me makes all the difference in the world.
So much for your thoughtful answers.
Daniel.
Good morning, Dr. Harris. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming by. My name is Daniel. So you've had, being as influential as you are, you've had the opportunity to speak with some amazing people. Could you tell us about a change maker that you admire, and maybe perhaps tell us about an interaction you've had with them? Thank you.
Oh yeah, that was an easy one. So it's really funny because as I'm sitting here having this conversation with you guys and having a conversation about influential people that I've met, I'm laughing because I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Like people think I'm influential, which just cracks me up because no one sees themselves that way. But I had a dinner at it was an event for Google, and they had a couple of Changemaker there, and there was anybody in the room know who Brian Stevenson is? Show of hands. Brian Stevenson, anybody? Okay, so anybody see the movie Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan? That's Brian Stevenson. That movie is about Brian Stevenson. So Brian Stevenson, he's a civil rights lawyer. He defends people on death row. And we're at this fancy dinner, and the chairman of Google, Eric Schmidt, is talking, and Brian and I are sitting next to each other. And I swear to you, we did not hear a word that was said because we were just so busy talking about how, he defends death row inmates, right? So we're talking about how trauma affects the development of the brain and executive function and impulse control, and how my work as a doctor with caring for kids who are experiencing extraordinary adversity, and his work as a lawyer was defending individuals who had experienced extraordinary adversity, and to the extent that it had really changed their life trajectory, right? And he actually, I think, is the person who made the case to the Supreme Court that led to the death penalty for minors being struck down. Can you imagine that we used to execute people under 18? I mean, which is anyways. So we were pounding on the table. We were yelling. I was like, my Jamaican accent was coming out. It was crazy. That was a total change maker moment. It was so joyful to talk to someone who was similarly passionate about caring for our vulnerable community members, and it was awesome. So yeah, Brian Stevenson, that's my best moment.
Christy.
Hello, Dr. Harris. Thank you for coming to speak for us today. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
My question for you today is, how has your passion evolved over the years? Like, did you always like public health, or is that something you always liked, or has it changed as you've gotten older?
And say your name again, Chrissy?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So how has my passion evolved over the years? The biggest thing I would say is, so there's a crazy thing is that, so you guys asked me and I told you the story about being at that CEO, presenting to the hospital council, to all the CEOs, and having the woman come up to me and say, keep doing what you're doing. And over the years, I have, I've set some bold goals. I've said, hey, this is what we want to do. We should, I remember, you guys, I remember reading about ACEs, caring for my patients, and being like, this is something we should do about. We should be screening for ACEs. We should develop clinical protocols about how to respond to do this. And people told me I was crazy. And people told me all the reasons why it couldn't be done, right? And then I was like, people don't even know about ACEs. Like, we should talk about it. We should shout it from the rooftops. And people told me I was crazy, and people told me that it couldn't be done. And I think the biggest way in which my approach to my work has changed over the years is that when you actually have an idea, and probably everyone has experienced this in some way, shape, or form, a big way or a little way. When you have an idea, and especially when people tell you that you're nuts, and then you work really hard at it, and then you see it come true, right? Like you actually see it come true. And then the craziest thing, I'm going to tell you, this is truly like, it's heady stuff. When you see the world, when you see that the world is different as a result of efforts that you have worked on with other people, and that you and your co-conspirators have like, you know, said, oh, I bet you we could do this. And then you try to make it happen. I mean, when I came into my role so when we first developed the ACE screening tool, you know, years and years and years ago, and I was like, oh yeah, everyone should be doing this, right? And then validated it, you know, and went through did the research study. And then when I came in as California Surgeon General, and now, you know, since we launched January of 2020, our initiative to train healthcare providers in California on how to screen for ACEs. And since January of 2020, we've trained over 20,000 healthcare providers. That's like, I mean, that's extraordinary to be able to see an idea come to fruition. So I guess the way that I would say that my approach has changed is people are powerful. We are powerful. And I think that one of the biggest way, you know, when people say the biggest way you give up your power is by believing that you don't have it to begin with. I think for me now, I am aware that we have the capability to change the status quo and to shape this future for better or for worse. And so I really try to be very intentional about what I do, because I know that we have the power to create change, and it's not the power of the office, right? Which is helpful, right? But it's the power of our human capacity to dream of something and make it a reality. And that's the thing that makes me excited, because I think for all of you who are sitting in this room, you have the power to dream of something. And, you know, yeah, it takes work and it takes years, and you got to get all these, you got to share your vision and make people believe in your vision. And you have to work through all the obstacles and the places where you got it mostly right, but a little bit wrong, or whatever it is. But we can do stuff. Like we do have the power to shape the world, and that's really exciting. And so I would say that's the thing that I'm most bring to my work, is that recognition that, like, yeah, we're going to do it. And when we're done, the world is going to be different.
Hi, Dr. Burke Harris. Thank you so much for coming. I just had a quick question on more so like your transition into the role. So I feel like, at least for me personally, like whenever starting something new, it's always like a little intimidating, whether it's like a new job or something of like that magnitude. So I was just kind of curious, how did you like mentally prepare or handle that transition, and especially like with a role of such magnitude?
Yeah. Wait, tell me your name. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Rohan.
Rohan. Thank you, Rohan, for the question. So everybody, when you ask a question, just tell me your name so that I know who you are. I will not joke. It was brutal. It was, I'm not going to mess around. So there's a couple things. One of the pieces is that when you, oftentimes, so my experience and the experience of a lot of the people that I know who are in government, when you're kind of a high level appointee, whether a gubernatorial appointee or, you know, I have some girlfriends who are presidential appointees. It all happens really fast, right? Like well, it happens slow first and then really fast. So they reach out to you, they ask you if you're interested. There's this whole vetting process and you're going through the vetting process and you have no idea whether it's really going to happen or not. And then you like get a call and it's all happening and it's happening right now. Like everything's going to happen right now. And then you got to jump in. And it's a little bit of a whirlwind and it's a little bit disorienting. But I think that what really helped me going into it was an approach of learning, just recognizing that it was going to be a really steep learning curve. And it was essentially like I was getting I feel like I've been getting a graduate degree in government affairs, right? Like just figuring out how do things work, how to build an office. Because not only was I, you know, appointed to be the Surgeon General, there had never been a Surgeon General before. The office didn't exist. So basic things like, how do I get a printer? Like little things like that. It took me a year to get a printer. Like that kind of stuff is a little bit crazy. But you recognize that there are so many people who are willing to help. And for me, it was about reaching out to the folks who I trusted, who knew a little bit about the lay of the land, and to set a vision and figure out what I wanted to do and figure out who could help me get it done, and go forward and just be very humble and recognize that I was probably going to make a ton of mistakes and just ask for grace and give myself grace and do the best that I can.
Thank you. Jeremy.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Jeremy Smith. Thank you for coming today. Professor Budak assigned your TED Talk from a few years back, and I'll say that I watched it. It touched me personally because I'm a person on your ACEs spectrum, but more so my family, I think, is more affected, or some a little less, but mostly more than me. So I sent it to them and said, you know, hey, we need to have this conversation more than we do already. You being in the seat, you know, that you talked about of being at Children's Hospital, seeing your patients in your room, how do you recommend you start the conversation with somebody who's maybe experienced, you know, like for me, it'll be a personal family thing at first, but how do you start that conversation about maybe getting on the right path of getting the right help for those people that need it? And really trying to make the change in that way. You know, how do you start this conversation? You know, you're doing it at a really big level, which I appreciate, but like, how do we do it from like a micro level? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I really appreciate that question, and thank you for sharing about your own experience. And I can answer that question very personally because I've had the same conversation with my family. And I'll tell you, it was easier to give that TED Talk than it was to have the conversation with my family about the ACEs that we all experienced, but it also is super important. And I think one of the pieces of it, and I think part of the reason why this ACEs work is so important is that I think that it helps us to realize, I think a lot of people have this concept that if you have ACEs and if it may be impacting you, like there's a lot of stigma around mental health. There's a lot of lack of understanding around how ACEs affect us. And one of the pieces that was really helpful for me personally in kind of understanding and you know, going on my own healing journey in response to my own ACEs was recognizing that, like, the science, right? It's so powerful. Like, oh, okay, because of what we've experienced, that our body may have an overactive or prolonged activation of the stress response. And that can show up in different ways for different people, right? And recognizing a couple of things. Number one is that just so often ACEs are handed down from generation to generation to generation. And so understanding that dynamic also gives us the opportunity to break the cycle. And I think that in the way that understanding how ACEs may affect development, health, behavior also gives us an opportunity for empathy for other people and for ourselves, and recognizing that, each person has to go through their own journey. Like there's no way that we can force anyone to confront or to deal with how ACEs may be impacting them. I think the most important, some of the most important things we can do, like we can share this information. We can offer resources. Another wonderful resource that's out there is called mynumberstory.org. And folks might want to check that out. And it gives people the opportunity to go in and, learn about their ACE number, learn how it may affect them. And then also, most importantly, get access to resources that can be helpful. But I think that for me, I feel like the most important place for us to start is with ourselves, right? And just recognizing like, okay, how did all of this stuff impact me? And then how can I be a source of support and comfort for my family members who may not be quite as far along the journey, but maybe this information can help me be supportive to them in a different way. Is that helpful?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I also, if anybody is more interested, there's, from the TED Talk, my deep dive is in my book, The Deepest Well. So if somebody wants to get it from the library or, whatever, I'm not trying to get revenues here, but like, I think that's also a really helpful resource in really being able to go through and kind of understand more deeply how ACEs affect us and also what we can do about it.
Hi, Dr. Burke Harris. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Benita, and my question is, taking on this new role of being the Surgeon General for the state, and with there being no historical precedent, how have you been able to maintain a growth mindset? I know that's a huge part of being a change maker, being able to maintain a growth mindset through any barriers or challenges that you face. So what are a couple of challenges that you have been able to maintain a growth mindset through?
Ooh, you guys are just hitting with the great questions. Thanks, Vanitha. I will say, so, being the first state Surgeon General in the middle of a global public health emergency, and, obviously we're also in a climate crisis, and also, we got drought, we got wildfires, we've got all kinds of political drama going on, and a whole racial reckoning and the whole thing. It's a lot. Like that is not a joke. It is a lot. And there certainly have been moments where I've just been like, holy moly, like this is a lot. And I think that the part that that I kind of mentioned earlier when I said it's a little bit like getting a graduate degree in government affairs, because honestly, it's not the work. It's not the work that gets overwhelming. It's like when things you know, like when you deal with something that should be easy, that's really hard, or some level of bureaucracy that is just like, why is this like this? Why does this make it so difficult? This is so frustrating. And I think for me in those moments, what's really helpful is for every challenge or problem that's put in front of me, I recognize that I am getting the opportunity to learn about problem solving, right? Because if this obstacle weren't there, it would be done already, right? Like, or whatever the issue is, it would be done already. And so for myself, just coming back to that, coming back to like, okay, what am I learning? So exactly what you're saying, and keeping that growth mindset in terms of if I'm making mistakes or if there's something that's a failure, really looking at how I'm learning from it is, I think that's, that definitely is what keeps me going and what makes this whole process feel like, none of it is for nothing, right? Like if I'm working hard and I'm successful at something, awesome, it's a success and we get the outcome. If I'm working hard and I fail at something, then I just learned something really important about why it's so difficult to do that thing. And hopefully I can carry that forward with me and apply that knowledge the next time that I face a similar challenge, and it'll help me be more successful next time. So that's been, I would say, yeah, growth mindset is an essential element to being a change maker, because otherwise it's just really easy to feel defeated by the challenges.
Thank you so much.
And for one more question.
Hi, Dr. Burke Harris. Thank you for being here. My name is Alex Budak. You mentioned briefly, like, one of the barriers you face sometimes is the political drama. And that was something I was curious about, just hearing your position. How do you like separate some of that stuff from like your main goal every day? Especially right now when there's like a lot going on with the pandemic and everything.
Yeah. So thanks, Alexandra. That's a great question. So the really nice thing about being the Surgeon General is that historically it is an apolitical position. So at the national level, it's appointed by the president. At the state level, it's appointed by the governor. And so obviously there are political issues at play, but as California's doctor, my job is just to take care of the California public. And so when people ask me about politics, I say I leave the politics to the politicians. And my job is to reach out, to listen, to be an ear. And I don't care if you have an R or an I or a D on your voter registration card. I don't, you know, like when it comes to public health, when it comes to caring for the public, I am going to be driven by the science. Unfortunately, a lot of what we've seen, especially during the COVID pandemic, is that kind of basic public health measures are politicized, right? And I do the same thing in that situation that I did for my patients in Bayview Hunters Point, which is if there's information or if there is a belief or if there's an understanding that that you need for me to clarify in order to help you protect your health, that's what I'm here for. So, you know, people have all kinds of beliefs. And I'll give you a great example of this. So, you know, sometimes people will put in their information on websites and, or you can, like, there's some websites where they're like, write to your public health official or write to your government official, and you put in your name and your phone number, and it generates a form letter. And so I got one of those. Like, I got like a couple hundred people reaching out to me, all with the exact same identical letter. And it was all like, I'm watching you, vaccination should not be required to get access to blah, blah, blah. And it was this message about people being upset about, restrictions related to vaccination status. And so all these people sent me this this thing, this kind of like anti-vax email. And at the bottom, it had people's, name and address. And for some of them, it had their phone number. So I picked up the phone and I started calling folks. And I said, hey, I got your letter. And they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, you sent me a letter last night voicing your disagreement with vaccination. Let's talk. What are your concerns? Tell me what you're worried about. I'm your Surgeon General. So what information, I'd love to hear more about what your concerns are about vaccination. And it was fascinating. It was honestly so much fun. It was so joyful for me to really be able to engage with people. And people were shocked. They were like, oh, I just, some people were like, oh, that was spam. I'm like, spam? Because you put in your phone number and I called your phone number and it really works because I'm talking to you now. And they're like, oh, yeah, I didn't know what I was signing. So there was some of that, but there were some people who were really like, they gave their reasons why they were hesitant. And I wasn't trying to convince folks. I was just trying to give them reputable information, because it turns out there's a ton of disinformation out there, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So in any case, yeah, that's my role. My role is to be California's doctor. And that is true for all Californians.
Dr. Burke Harris, thank you so much for your inspiration and your wisdom today, for reminding us that change is everything from shifting the way that we think about public health to sometimes just figuring out how to get a printer in a bureaucracy. We're super grateful for your time. Please join me in thanking Dr. Burke Harris.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting me. I hope you have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back.